Hi everyone, I'm Paul with MadCap Software, and in this video we're going to start going through how to create a generated TOC in PDF output. And I know you're looking at my shirt. I know you are because I would be. You're like, save what? So here you go. Save Ferris. So this is the next shirt in my closet. That's how I do it. Okay, eyes up here. So we did a generated TOC in the previous video, the video for a quick and easy output, but we didn't really do much with the generated TOC because we just kind of let Flare create it behind the scenes and we just moved on. But now we've got a fancy design that we're trying to recreate. So there's a lot more we need to do. There's a lot of explaining I need to do in this video, and there's a big challenge for us. So we're just going to work our way through this and try to recreate this thing. Now, looking at our mock-up, and we come down to the generated TOC, I can tell right away there's going to be a bit of a challenge here because of what the designer has given me. So we've got our title in here in this horizontal bar. That's not going to be a problem. But then you get down here, and we've got chapter 1, chapter 2, all the way down. And okay, and then under that, we got chapter title and then subheadings with the page numbers. And this is going to be a little bit tricky because what she's done is she has these auto numbers, chapter 1, chapter 2, on their own lines here, and without a leader and a page number. And so, yeah, the chapters, I'm kind of go back and forth because these relate to one another. So this is where it's getting its information from these headings and things that it's putting in there. So there's our auto number, chapter 1, and there's our heading 1, or our what will become the chapter title, the beginning of that chapter, and then subheadings below it. And so that's going to take a little bit of work. And as I looked at this, it dawned on me, actually, this is very familiar to me because this is similar to the design that I have for my own PDFs. And years ago, back then when I put those together, I remember really struggling through this because it was just kind of different. But I liked it. I liked that the chapters were just kind of numbers were by themselves. And so I really wanted to recreate that, but I had to figure some things out along the way. So what I need to do is explain the mechanics and the different pieces of this, how it all comes together. If you're doing a simpler design, a lot of this stuff happens behind the scenes. You don't even need to know about it. It just works. But in order to manipulate this, to get it to do what we want, we do need to understand the mechanics of it. So it all begins, this generated TOC begins with a proxy. And we did this in the earlier video. We looked at it in the earlier video, the quick and easy output, PDF output. So what we did in that video was we went into the PDF target and we used this generate TOC proxy. And it just automatically generated this thing behind the scenes for us. So you can do that. You can let Flare do it automatically, but we want to, we're going to do it, not use this. We want to do a different method because we want to do more customization with our generated TOC, and especially we want it to have its own page layout. And so what we're going to do is create a topic and insert the proxy to make this work. Let's take a look at the different parts of a generated table of contents. So you look into a generated TOC, a design like this, and it's made up of these different parts. Now, your H1 styles by default and your H2 and H3 and so on are going to populate the text for those headings. They're going to populate in here. So you've got H1 at the first level, then H2, then H3. Then there are special styles in your style sheet that are going to help you control the look of these things. So for the first level, H1, there's PTOC1. And then for H2, there is PTOC2. And then for H3, PTOC3. So the numbers line up really nicely. Then there is something else coming into play here. It's not just that something is using H1, H2, H3. It's that these things have properties, style properties with certain values on them. And the style property is called MC heading level. And the value for H1 by default is 1. For H2, it's 2. And for H3, it's 3. Again, the numbers line up really nicely. By the way, when you see properties, style properties in the style sheet that start with MC, or if you see styles that start with MadCap, those are special styles and properties that were created by MadCap software just because we've got unique features. They're not standard CSS. So we needed to create these so that we're able to do things in Flare for things that CSS just doesn't know about. All right, so you have these pieces all working together. Not only are those MC heading level properties used in the generated TOC, they're also used for system variables, which we're going to use later in this video series. So you have a page like this with an H1 and H2, and then there's another subheading down here, and then a footer. Well, what's in these footers? We actually, in this example, these are being populated with system variables. They're called level variables. So there's level 1, level 2 right there. And what they're doing is they're tapping into that MC heading level property. So if you insert this in here, it's going to go look for the level 1 variable. It's going to look for the first heading 1 or heading that's using that MC heading level, and it's going to plug it in here. It's going to populate, it's going to replace that variable with the text from that heading. And then here, if you insert level 2, well, it'll go look for the first heading 2, the first H2. So if you've got a relatively simple design like this, everything just lines up and it just kind of works. It's not that hard. Then you add chapter auto numbers, and it gets a little bit more complex. But if you had a simple design like something like this, where you've got an auto number that will show up, the chapter auto number shows up here in the TOC, and then of course in the chapters, well, that's not too hard because you could just put the auto number on the H1, on the heading itself, and it would just show up and everything would be aligned. But that's not the design that we have. We've got this, where the chapter auto number is separated from the heading that is the chapter title, both there and down in here. Well, could we put our auto number on our heading? Suppose we could, but it would be pretty hard to then get the chapter auto number to show up here like this. And it would be especially hard to do it up in here if you could do it at all. So for that reason, I decided, well, I'm just going to have a different style for my chapter auto number. So we're looking at something like this, where, all right, in her mock-up, I got chapter title here. That is really my H1. And then H2, but then I need a separate style associated with this chapter auto number. So what I'm looking at doing here is creating a style called, in this video series, I'll create one called p.chapter number. And that's what I'm going to use for that auto number, both to represent it here in the generated TOC and in the topic. The thing is, I'm going to change the MC heading levels. I'm going to switch this around so that this is going to get heading level 1, so that I know it's at the first level on my generated TOC. And I'm going to change the H1 to MC heading level 2, and H2 to 3, and so on if I wanted to use more. Now these PTOC1 to TOC2, PTOC3, those are going to stay with the MC heading levels. So I'm going to use these different things, PTOC1 2, and 3 to control the look of these different heading levels. This one goes with this next level goes with this, and this level goes with this. Now, years ago when I was first figuring this out, I kind of thought to myself, well, maybe I should just go back to the graphic designer and ask for another design that's easier. But what I realized in doing this, it turned out to be sort of this blessing in disguise. It turned out to be a good thing. And this will become clear later in the way that I'm able to keep the chapter auto number separate. And when we get to the very last video in this series, it'll become especially clear why this turned out to be a good thing. It's allowing me to reuse these pieces in my outline TOC so that I can quickly create, as many PDFs as I need. So that's just some about the different pieces in the generated TOC, how it all works. And you're going to need this knowledge as we continue to go forward and put all of this together. Let's begin with our page layout for our generated TOC. So we already have this front matter page layout. We're not going to put the TOC, make the TOC part of that. We're going to give it its own page layout. But what we can do, because we already have some pieces in the front matter page layout, is we can make a copy of this thing. So I'm going to do that, just make a copy. And I'm going to name this TOC. And so let's open this guy up and see what we've got. So, of course, we've got our title page and we've got the normal page for our copyright. And of course, we're not going to use all of this. I am going to, let's see, on this page, I'm going to remove a bunch of these frames. That hero frame, I'm going to get rid of that and get rid of that and get rid of that. So all those guys, I'm keeping this one body frame in here, and I'm also keeping the footer. So if we look at our mock-up in here, so we've got our body frame, which is going to hold everything, table of contents on down, everything that's generated. And then we've got our footer in here, which looks the same, but we're going to put some different stuff in here in the footer. I am going to resize and move this body frame so that I get 0.75 inch margins on the top and on the sides and 1 inch on the bottom. I'll just go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so there we go. That is 0.75 on those three sides, 1 inch down at the bottom, got our footer. Let's go down to the footer. And we are going to change the information down here. Instead of company name, product name, those variables, let's go into our little editor, pressing F2. And down here, I'm going to convert that to text. Yeah, I can't see it really, so I have to kind of highlight it. And I'm actually just going to type table of contents. So you can type text, you can use variables, whatever you want. I'm just going to do that. And it really does make it challenging when you got white text here on a white background. And then the thing on the right, we are going to use a page number instead of the product name. So what we want to do, I'm going to click right in here. So this was our span that we created earlier to get that light text. And then the next set of brackets is the variable. And I'm in between those. And I'm going to insert page number variable. So open up the variables and go to system. And there's page number right there. And I'll just click that. It adds it. And actually, I'm going to add the word page right before that with a space. And we'll get rid of that second variable. All right. And let's go down here and see what, okay, so table of contents, page, blah, page 3, page 5, whatever it's going to be. And our logo's there. That's good. Now, get rid of this. We got this end page in here. We're going to get rid of that because we're only going to just have one page really for all of our generated TOC. So right click, remove that. And this one is using title page. Well, we don't want it to be the title page. I'm going to change the page type. I'm just going to change it to normal. And I will change this to TOC, our internal indicator for what this is. All right, and save that. One of the things that we might do in the future, of course, is if we decide, all right, we want the TOC to have sort of this, unique look on each page. Maybe we want the title, we want it to start lower than other pages in case the TOC goes to multiple pages. And so in that case, we would probably have like a first page in here. And then if we wanted different margins, like I've mentioned before, we could add a left and a right. So maybe you want, think about it being actually bound, printed. And so the left page, you'd want a wider margin on the right, and the right page, a wider margin on the left. And, the footer could have different content. So that's just open right now, but I selected N for normal because I'm just thinking I'm going to keep this simple. All the pages are going to be the same in this. But what makes this page layout unique is down here, table of contents, as opposed to, a chapter or something else. All right, so we got our page layout created. Now we need to move on and create a topic with our proxy. All right, so now we need a topic that's holding our TOC proxy. This is going to be really quick in here. So in our print TOC folder, where we have our title page and our copyright page, I am going to add a new topic in here, and I'm going to name it TOC, and then I'll add, but what do I want the heading to be in there? Table of contents. I'm going to do that so that the file name will be TOC, but the first heading in it will have that text, table of contents, right there. And now I can go up in here, page layout. And so instead of the front matter, I am going to select this just to see what it looks like with our new page layout. So the margins are different, and come down here and the footer is right there. Now I've got table of contents in here. I need to insert the proxy. And so I'm going to go to insert proxy right there, TOC proxy. Style class, we are going to leave this blank. We could choose, set up a style class later and come back and select it. But for now, we're just going to insert this guy right here. So we've got our topic created. Now there's a little bit more that we want to do. Insert that bar or that horizontal rule that goes under it. We're going to tackle that in this next section where we get into styles, because we need to style that first, and then we'll insert that guy in there. But yeah, that's as simple as your table of contents topic needs to be, really. So the last section in this video is on styles. So we talked about the mechanics, all the different pieces, and now we need to go and set that stuff so that our generated TOC is going to display correctly, display the right things in the right places, look the right way, and we'll get that horizontal bar in here too. First of all, though, let's start from the top down. The table of contents heading, right now it's using H1. And as I explained in the earlier video, that generated TOC is going to use H1. And so it'll repeat table of contents as part of that generated TOC. Don't really want that. That's kind of goofy. So what we're going to do is create a separate style for this, that it's going to look the right way. It'll look like, other headings, but we're going to keep it out of that generated TOC. Now I could do this. It's using H1. I could create a style called H1.TOC, or I could do P.TOC heading or something like that. You just need to make sure that the right properties and everything are hooked with it. And I think it's going to be easiest to do it on a paragraph. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's go in and open up our style sheet. And I am going to create, let's go look at our styles under P, just show you. All right, we already have several that we created. Now we've also got these TOC P, TOC1, TOC2, blah, blah, blah. It actually goes down to 9. You can go 9 levels. That would be kind of crazy to have 9 levels, but it goes that far. And so we want to create one. I'm going to create it and just call it TOC heading. That'll be a unique name in here. And I'll set the styles on it. Here is the style class, PTCO heading. And all I set on it was a font family of Roboto medium, font size of 27 point, because I was going according to the mockup. Now, the next thing down on that page, now let's actually, before we forget, let's go apply that style. P TOC heading right there. So that's what it's going to look like. Now, we want to get that horizontal rule in here. Let's go back here and remember from before, that is the HR style. We've already got a couple in here, and I'm going to create one. This horizontal rule is different from those others. The others were just little tiny itty bitty things. This one is similar because it's got the color and the width and everything, but it's the full width of this. So I'm going to create a class in here. Select this first. I'm going to create one in here called I'm just going to call it full width, and we'll use this probably in a few places. And I'll set the styles for that. And here it is, HR, full width, background color, border color, height 5 pixels, and got a margin bottom and top on that. So let's go back to our topic and let's insert this guy. So we want to insert the rule, and we have full width right there. Select that, done. Now, another thing that we're going to control, we inserted this proxy in here, and I said, well, just leave that style class blank for now. Let's go back to our mockup, and you can see we've got the rule here, and it comes in a bit. There's some space on the left and some space on the right. So I'm going to create a style class for that proxy, and we will apply that to get it to move in on each side a little bit. So that is, remember I said all the special MadCap styles start with MadCap. That's these right in here. MadCap, MadCap, TOC proxy. I could set it on this one if I wanted, if I knew that all my TOCs were always going to be the same, but it might be safer to go in and create a style class so that, you know, if we, in the future, if we need different TOCs that look different, we can control, you know, it's easy to separate them this way. So I'm going to go ahead and create a class for this and do all the settings. All right, so I called it PDF guides because maybe I'll have other PDFs, a group of PDFs, and want a different class for those. And I set it margin left and right of 0.75 inches. And let's go back in here and let's apply this. And if this is too narrow or too wide still, we can always change those margins later. Select this and there, so it comes in a bit. And yeah, so the actual generated TOC will be indented a bit. Okay, so back to our mockup. Next thing down, this chapter auto number. Haven't created that. So it's going to be used, the chapter auto number here and here. Okay, because we already have H1s, H2s and stuff. All right, let's go back into our style sheet. Now I could go into each chapter, each topic that's going to start a chapter, like getting started is going to start a chapter. And I could create a line above the H1 and apply that style that's going to have my auto number. It'll be above it. I could do that, and that way it would, it would be separate here. It would be above it, and it would allow me also to keep it separate here. But what I'm going to do is something a bit unorthodox, actually even more unorthodox than that, because that's kind of unorthodox too. What I'm going to do is I am going to create a separate topic just to hold the chapter auto number. And this is what I was talking about, where I kind of stumbled upon this blessing in disguise. And that is because by keeping it a separate topic, when I get later to the point where I'm creating my outline TOC, I'm going to be able to just like reuse that. It's going to link the chapter, the start of each chapter will link to that separate topic, and it's just going to make it easier for me to reuse that, and that'll hopefully become clear later. So I am going to go into my print only folder, and I'm going to create a topic in here, and I am going to call this thing chapter number, like that. And all it's going to do, I'm going to get rid of that. And actually, I'm going to get rid of all this text in here. It's just going to be a blank line. I know that seems weird, but it'll come together. And so now I need a style for it where my auto number is going to show up. Let's go back to our style sheet. And I'm going to do this under the paragraph style. So I am going to create this and add, okay, this one I'll demo for you because I want you to see how the auto numbering works. So I'm going to call this chapter number in here. And what we need is the an auto number format. And it might be, if you don't already know what it's called, it might be easier for you to switch to all properties and the group view. And then there is a group in here called auto number right there. Come in here and we can move this out a bit so you can see auto number format is what we want. So I'm going to click on this guy and it brings up a fancy dialog, and you can go through, okay, there's all kinds of commands in here. Some are auto number commands, some are file format, variety. The main stuff we're going to be looking at are these auto number commands that we need. And so here's how we're going to build this so that our chapter auto numbers work. First, we are going to start with CH. And if you were to scroll down in this, you would see it down here. And that it specifies a chapter-wide series label. And so C stands for chapter, H stands for heading. You just need this in front of the format so that it knows what's going on. Now I'm going to type the word, because what do I want my auto number to be? I want it to have the word chapter and then increment 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So I'm going to actually type the word chapter like that, space, and then I need to get the chapter number, and that's this right here, chapnum. Double click that, it adds it right there. And that is okay. And then let's see, there is also MC auto number position inside head. That's what we want. You can, look, there's different ways that you can position auto numbers. This is what we want, the inside head, and then MC heading level. So this is why I always like to use this. I just know what it's called. So I just start MC heading level. And right now it says it's inheriting it. Well, it's inheriting it, from the paragraph, the main P style, which doesn't have a heading level. We're not including it. The regular paragraphs. If we included all of our paragraphs in a generated TOC, that would be ridiculous. But this particular one we do want to include, and we want it to be heading level 1. Remember that fancy diagram that I showed you earlier. This thing right here, we want the MC heading level to be 1. All right, so that's what we set it on. And as far as the look of it, the font family, the size, the color, I'm going to set those later when we get to the actual topics. But for now, this is good enough. Chapter number. And let's go back to our topic and let's apply it. So P chapter number. Okay, so all it's going to show right now is this placeholder because it doesn't know what chapter you're on. It'll just supply the number and increment it later when you build the output. So the other thing I showed you in the fancy diagrams, we have these things, PTOC 1, 2, and 3 to go with our different heading levels in here. Heading level 1, heading level 2, heading level 3. That's all we've got in here. So we're going to go into our style sheet and we're going to format these. So I'm going to come down under the P style to these TOC 1 all the way down to 9. And I'm just going to go ahead and set each one of these, the first 3. So for TOC 1, gave it a color of the orange that stands out. It's Roboto Medium 14 point. Another thing that I did on it, she didn't have this in the mock-up, but it's just something I know from experience. When you have a really long heading, and if it gets to the end where the page number is in the TOC and it wraps, it's going to hyphenate it. And I think that looks kind of weird. And so I like to set MC hyphenate to never to prevent it from hyphenating where it breaks or where it wraps. And then page num display. And drag this over a little bit so you can see it. I set to none. Normally that is all. And all is going to provide that leader after the heading and then the page number. Well, that first level with our chapter auto number, we don't want that. So I set it to none. And then page break after, that's another thing that I like to do. And that helps keep these different sections together with their chapter numbers. Let me show you what I mean here. So in our mock-up, we're coming down here and it sort of ends here with chapter 6 and the things underneath it. Let's say that chapter 5 has a lot more subheadings. And so you got chapter 5 here and all these subheadings are taking up this space in the generated TOC all the way down to here. And then you got chapter 6 in orange, but there's not space for these things under it. So they end up on the following page. Well, I think that looks kind of weird to have chapter 6 ending here and then the things that go with it on the following page. So I like to set the page break after to avoid, just to keep these things looking nicer on the TOC. For TOC 2, I have Roboto Light 14 point margin left because it's indented a little bit. Same thing with MC hyphenate, never. And then TOC 3, Roboto Medium 12 point, same margin left and same MC hyphenate. So these are set. And then in a later video, when we start building the output, we're going to see how this comes together and how these things look. That was a lot to take in, I know, understanding all those little pieces, but hopefully it's making sense to you and will become clear and we'll start generating some output, and we might have to go back and tweak it some, but that's all part of the process. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. We're going to keep moving down in the series, down in our PDF mockup, and just work on more pages.